Hey everyone, it's Megan from Bookish Delights. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I annotate my books, and it's going to be, we're going to show you like the different stages of what I went through for annotating my books, starting when I first started to how I annotate now and how I might switch it up in the future. So let's just jump right into the video. I could have done a way easier setup than what I did out on my kitchen table, but I'm here at my computer desk, so we're just going to continue. Okay, so like I said in the intro, this is how I annotate my books, and I have a stack of books here, and this I'm just going to show you how I started annotating. So I'm just going to go down through all of these books. I don't annotate all of my books, it's just depending. First I'm going to start off with what I use to annotate, so I'm just going to move this aside. I have this little pouch here. This is what I use to annotate my books now. Before, I used to take any old regular pen, whether it's like a ballpoint pen, like different colors. This is what I use right now, so I'm just going to quickly go through what is in here. I like to use these friction pens and highlighters because if you guys don't know what friction pens are, they erase with heat or with friction, hence the name, but you do have to be careful with friction pens because the ink can disappear with heat. But apparently you can just pop your paper or your book or whatever in the freezer and it'll come back. I haven't tested that theory, so I don't know, but I use friction pens so that I can still have like a little bit of color instead of just using pencil, because I find that pencil also fades over time. But I do like to use a bit of color, and also if I decide that I don't want to keep the book, I can go back in and erase any of my highlighting or any markings that I have. But typically if I am annotating a book, it's a book that I know that I'm going to keep. So I just have a couple of highlighters. I like these highlighters because these are more muted in tone, like they're not so fluorescent, and that's what I like. And these are just like a couple different colors of the pens. And then I also have some sticky notes in here. So, well, this is the pack that I'm currently using, and as you can tell, these are almost all gone, but this is a new pack. So I do have like a whole bunch of different colors for if you want to color code, and I do have these like slimmer ones that are meant to use as kind of like you are highlighting the text, so you can put this right over the top of the text as if you are highlighting it instead of actually highlighting. So those are good to use as well. So I mainly use these ones sometimes if I'm out of a color, and this, like, I'm out of blue, then I'll just grab the blue from here instead of opening a whole new pack just to get the blue. I also have another little sticky note here, and I'll get more into that in a minute. Yeah, if you want to try annotating but you don't actually want to write on your book, you can use like just sticky notes. Like these are just like post-it minis or the sticky minis. So you can write on that. For some reason it's like trying to focus in the background and not on this. So these are really nice just to add a little bit of information. You can get them in all sorts of colors, but if you find that these are too small, then you can use the bigger post-it square. But if you find these are too big, you can just cut these in half and they make like a really nice size. You can also get like these cute little post-its if you want to use cute ones instead of just like plain ones just to dress it up a little bit, you can use those. And then you can also use like different page flags. These are good for writing on as well if you just want to use a little bit of information. When I use these is when I'm borrowing a book or it's like a library book, so obviously I'm not going to write in those books, but I do still want to write like my thoughts as I'm reading or write down a quote that I like. Then I will use one of these. Now let's get into the book. So I'm going to take these one by one. I'm going to move these off to the side because my camera is having a hard time focusing on just one thing. So I'm just going to move everything aside. Alright, so when I first started annotating, I was in college, and this isn't really annotating, but I wanted to try keeping tab of stuff that I like. So this is the Book of Even More Awesome by Neil. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name. I love this book. It's just like a tidbit of like awesome things. So what I did, like placing the last piece of a puzzle, is pretty awesome. So I'm just gonna zoom in just a little bit here. I don't want to zoom in too far, but yeah, so what I did was I just took Neil page tabs, flags, and I just tabbed the ones that I really liked. I didn't write anything on here or highlight. So as you can see here, I have quite a few tabs on the top and in the sides, and what's written on here is just like a summary of the title. Like, this is slowing down, so I just put the title here on the tab so that I know roughly what it's about, instead of like, oh, there's a certain one that I want to, but it's not this one because it's not written down, it's not that one, or like instead of trying to keep thumbing through trying to find it, I just wrote a little bit on what it was. That's it. And that's my start of annotating, when I didn't actually annotate, just getting in the mindset of tabbing off passages that I liked. Moving on, in the same year, I'm still in college, but in my English class, we had to read a couple books. So these are two of the books that we read. We also read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So that one is annotated a little bit, but these tabs, the tabs that you see here, they're not what I put in for school. These are just so that I can reference for this video. But for this book here, this is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, and for some reason it doesn't want to focus. There we go. So this is a really great read. I've reread it a couple of times, and I will continue to reread it, usually like every October. For some reason I'll reread this, but let's just jump right into it. These are just tabs that I put there myself, but this is when I first started actually writing in my book, but I wasn't sure how I was going to like it, so I would only like highlight certain words or phrases or quotes that would pertain that would work in my classes if I had to write any essays or whatever, or like I would just put an arrow to the paragraph. I have a arrow here because this was something that my professor referenced in class. And then again here, just putting arrows to passages and paragraphs that my professor would take note of in class or talk about in class. So I really wasn't highlighting anything, and I was very hesitant on writing in it, so I didn't make any notes about it. I would underline a few things that my professor thought was really important for when we would go to write an essay. And then in this one, again, the same college year, same professor, same class. This is the other book that we had to read, and this is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And this one I actually did start highlighting more and underlining more. So here I underline like a quote that my professor referenced to in class, and here I actually started highlighting and underlining, but the highlighter that I chose was not a good option because, as you can see, it did go through the pages and like a bit through on the side as well. So be careful of what highlighter you are using. And again, just underlining more quotes and still doing the arrow for certain paragraphs that I referenced in my class. And then moving on to my own personal books. I had stopped annotating for a while because I kind of just forgot about it. And then when I done my reread of Anne of Green Gables, I decided to annotate this as well. These tabs again are just to reference this video. So I would start off with, you can see here, I will put like a dot or an arrow or an underline to a new character that was introduced, and I will just say that's a character. And again, here, more about the character, like more detail, so I'll underline some stuff that will pertain to the character, and like this is a character that was already introduced and I'm just underlining it again. And then I did do a little bit of highlighting, but I didn't use a good highlighter because you can hardly see it. This quote is actually highlighted, as well as over here is highlighted, and I've also been doing like a few little tidbits, like my own conversation in here. And then I started doing, instead of highlighting or underlining the whole paragraph, I would just line the outer edge, and I do believe, yes, so I carried it on here. So I would just do this with the whole paragraph instead of highlighting the whole thing. Did a little bit over there, and that is a backstory to a character. And then just jumping right to the back here, I would also highlight any words that I didn't know what it meant and just do a definition down here, and then just some like commentary on the margins of the pages. So I'm getting a little bit more into annotating, but I don't have a system. I didn't have a system. Now, moving on to the next book, which is The Night Circus, which I didn't do my reread of this yet. In the previous video, this was in an unhaul, but then I decided to give it a try again, and I just haven't done that yet. This is where I introduced a color code. Using those page tabs, like all these colored tabs there, I introduced that to here. So anything that wasn't highlighted and it was just underlined was just like me doing a little bit of commentary. And then I believe green meant quotes that I liked. Let's see. Blue was characters, any new characters coming in, and I did highlight with this matching color to the highlighter that any information that goes along with that character. So here's another new character being introduced, and it was just, yeah, I think yellow was like maybe foreshadowing, I think it was, and then orange was like words that I didn't know, and I put the definition down. And then I didn't get too far after that. I got here, didn't get too far, and then I think when I was doing the color code, that really got me out of this book because I was paying too much attention to keeping the color code intact. I'm like, oh, this is a new character, then I gotta highlight this, and oh, this is information about him. Like, I was just paying too much attention to the annotations than I was to the story. Yeah, that was the only time I tried like a true, legit color code system for annotating, and I didn't like it, so I don't do like a proper color code system for my annotations. Moving on to how I annotate my books. Now, this is Beartown by Frederick Beckman, and you can see I've annotated it a lot. Now, I don't want to say that I don't color code, but I tend to, depending on what the book is, I want different things for my annotation. Like, usually blue would mean like that's very emotional for me. Like, it's just like, not necessarily that it's sad or it's pain or it's hurt, just any type of emotion that it gets me feeling. Usually pink is like a relationship type thing, as in like a really good friendship, or like an actual relationship, that like husband and wife or male relationship. Any type of relation, doesn't have to be like a romantic relationship, like any friendship. Usually orange, I think, is just like quotes that I like. Yellow, I can't quite remember, to be honest. I don't know, it's kind of all over the place. It's not a big deal that if I don't follow a color code, which I tend to, and sometimes it's just like I'll pick a color that I want to use and I'll use that color. So here, now I'm getting into like highlighting certain phrases that I think speak to me. I'm highlighting quotes. Like here, I highlighted a whole bunch on these 2 pages because it really hit me. This passage was really deep. And then I'm also like underlining with the highlighter, though I'm not finding anything that's just underlines. Alright, so here you can see that I didn't fully highlight, I just underlined with the highlighter. And that is that, like, I still want to take note about this page or this passage, but it didn't hit me as much as other quotes, or like it's not like a favorite quote, but I think it was still, I still like it, and it's still good to the story type thing. Yeah, and now you can see that I don't put my tabs out too far anymore. That's because when I put my books on the shelf, I don't want the tabs being like bent up like how these ones are. I don't like this look of it all being bent up. So I just have it out far enough that I'm able to like see them. Like, you can see it better in person. Obviously the camera isn't picking up on it, but it's easy for me to flip them open, go to the tab that I want. I tend to use blue a lot in my tabs. That's because, like I said, that I mainly do like emotion. Like, if it has me feeling some sort of way, whether it's good, it's bad, it makes me laugh, it makes me cry, whatever, then that's kind of what I will use. So it's not like a true color code. It's kind of, there's a method to my madness, and it makes sense to me, so do what makes sense to you. Now, there's times where I don't annotate books, even though it's a book that I truly love, which is like We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson. I gave this book 5 stars. I freaking loved it. It had me feeling ways. It was an emotional roller coaster, but as you can see, I did not annotate this at all because I was just so engrossed in the story that I just couldn't put it down, even though, like, normally I would have my little pouch next to me of my pens, my highlighters, and my tabs, but I was just so engrossed in the story that I didn't even think about annotating. So I'd say when I go on a reread of this book that I will annotate it. Now that I already know what the story is, even though, like, I'm not going to remember every detail 100% down to the T, but, like, I know all of the story, I know what happens and what has happened and, like, the development and all that, so I can pay a little bit more attention to annotating it and not being so, like, involved in the story or whatever, and I just like going back and reading my notes. Now the last book I'm going to talk about before my camera shuts off. So it's kind of a funny story by Ned Vizzini. I'm still currently reading this. I'm not too far into it. I am on page 72. I stopped in the middle of a chapter. Oh, that's so strange. Why didn't I finish reading this chapter? I don't like stopping in the middle of a chapter unless like I'm out and about and like I actually have to put my book away and go do what I'm doing. Yeah, so this one here is more of an emotional book, so I'm gonna see like a lot of blue in this because it's gonna have me feeling some ways. So I might try adapting a color code again, but not going too in depth with the color codes. Maybe like what I was doing for, I don't know what book it was, doing for Beartown or something. Maybe it will be like blue is for emotions, pink will be like any type of relationship, whether it's friendship, anything. Yellow could be like words. I don't know, like I want to get back into putting definitions of words that I don't know or I want to know more about. So maybe yellow could be that. Green could be something like quotes that I want to reference later or foreshadowing or something like that. So maybe I'll do like a small color code, like a like a broad color code system type thing for me. Like, do what works for you, but that is how I annotate my books. Yeah, so I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that little bell icon for any notifications whenever I upload a video. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, video suggestions, leave them down in the comments below and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. And thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.